All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Nevada Caregiver Coalition's Conversations with Caregivers. This is a new monthly forum for caregivers to gain information and to share their concerns with us. The coalition works to create community awareness and to change public policy on the issues facing all caregivers and their families. Hello, I'm Mary Liverati, your host. I'm a member of the Nevada Caregivers Coalition. We are a group of organizations, agencies, businesses, and individuals who provide care to individuals and loved ones across the lifespan. Today, we'd like to thank our sponsor. And I think we have a slide coming up on that. Yep, great. So thank you to our sponsor for today's event, AARP. AARP also happens to be a member of our coalition. And we would invite you to check out their information and events on their website, which is listed on the slide, aarp.org/Nevada. We also are very excited to announce that registration is now open for our annual Caregiver Recognition event. Every November, in celebration of National Family Caregiving Month, we host a recognition event for Nevada's caregivers. This year's event will take place virtually on Thursday, November 18th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. PM, but Pacific time. So if you have friends and family that would like to join you in honoring someone and they live in a different part of the country, they can join us at 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. Do you know a caregiver who deserves special recognition for their selfless work? Consider honoring them through this event. We are accepting caregiver recognitions and event registrations, as well as actively seeking sponsors for the event. Information about how to honor a caregiver, how to sponsor the event, and how to register can all be found on our website, which is nvcaregiverscoalition.com. If you aren't familiar with our annual event, you can see the highlights from last year's event on our website. So we invite you to join us for this wonderful celebration. You can also stay connected with us throughout the months. The Nevada Caregivers Coalition has a website that we encourage you to visit at, again, nvcaregiverscoalition.com, listed on the slide. On the website, you will find our blog, a calendar of events, and each month how to join our monthly meetings. We also have a Facebook page and encourage you to like our page so you can receive updates on our events. We meet on the second Wednesday of every month from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Currently, we meet on Zoom to discuss current events facing caregivers. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, August 11th. If you're not a member, we encourage you to consider joining us. Simply send your information on our contact form, which is available on our website, or let us know in the chat feature today so we can reach out to you after today's program. A few reminders before we get started on Zoom etiquette. We will have time for questions after our speakers conclude their remarks, but if you have a question in the meantime, please use the chat feature to ask your question or make a comment. Please mute your microphone unless you are asking a question. If you would like to save the chat, simply click on the three gray dots in the top right-hand corner of the chat box and click on Save Chat. Now, we know some people have mobile devices like I do, and it sometimes doesn't work for us. But if you are using your computer or laptop today, you should be able to save the chat if you'd like. If you have any other trouble with your internet connection, we suggest that you leave the meeting and then sign back in. A lot of times that will fix the problems. But if you have any other tech issues while we're having our program and you'd like assistance, send a private chat to Marsha O'Malley or Becky Contos. They are managing our meeting today and are our terrific tech support. Thank you, Marsha and Becky. Next slide. Our topic today is powerful tools for caregivers, taking care of you. Powerful tools for caregivers helps caregivers take better care of themselves alongside their loved ones. Although the program is a 6-week workshop, today caregivers will learn self-care tools to reduce stress, better manage emotions, increase self-confidence, and utilize local resources. We will provide more information about the 6-week course at the end of our program today. Our speakers today are Terry Maurer and Richard Davis. They are from Dignity Health. Since 2009, Terry Maurer has worked with Dignity Health in facilitating evidence-based chronic self-management workshops. It is her passion to empower those facing ongoing health issues as they strive to better health, quality of life, and prolonged survivorship through self-advocacy, peer connection, exercise, and heart-based living. As an experienced caregiver within her own family, Terry went on to train as a powerful tools for caregivers leader and then a master trainer. Next, we have Richard Davis. Among his many accomplishments, Richard is a certified community health worker 2 with the state of Nevada and the Nevada and National Community Health Worker Associations. He is a certified master trainer in powerful tools for caregivers, along with self-management resource center in chronic disease, chronic pain, positive self-management for people living with HIV, diabetes self-management, and cancer thriving and surviving. Woo, Richard, you're busy. I'm going to invite Terry to go ahead to begin the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I want to first just welcome you all for coming. Thank you so much for coming to see what we have here today. Today's presentation is really based on the Powerful Tools for Caregivers program. It's a self-care educational program for family caregivers. And there's over 4,500 class leaders across the United States, Canada, and Korea. And since the program's inception, a great deal of research, evaluation, and revision has been done to ensure that the program has continued value and continued success. Now, it's normally delivered in a 6-week PTC, Powerful Tools for Caregivers class, and it's been shown to have a very positive impact on caregiver health for diverse groups of caregivers, and that would include those in the rural areas, ethnic minorities, adult children of aging parents, spouses, partners, caregivers at differing stages in their caregiving role, living situations, financial and educational backgrounds. Now, data from the class participant evaluations indicate that the PTC program, it involves self-care behaviors, like it improves increased exercise, use of relaxation techniques, and medical checkups. It also improves management of emotions, so it usually will reduce guilt, anger, and depression. It helps to improve self-efficacy, which would be increased confidence in coping with caregiving demands, as well as use of community resources where you're able to actually utilize some of the services in your own community. Now, the program does use a script, and that is to ensure that the program maintains the same positive outcomes for family caregivers, and that same information is covered whenever it is offered, or from whoever it's offered from, or whichever instructors are offering it. Now, today we're going to be focusing on tools that are going to help you to manage the daily stresses and challenges that you face as caregivers. We have, let's look at the agenda. This is what we'll be doing today. We're going to do a PTC overview, which is really what I just did. Challenges, acute versus chronic, managing stress, identifying signs and sources, taking action as in stress reducers, making an action plan, and then a relaxation and a closing. And the whole idea here is to address your stress. That's what we're looking for. So let's take a look at the whole group. Yay, there we go. So an important part, if you have your cameras, go ahead and turn them on if you would like. An important part of the Powerful Tools for Caregivers program is actually sharing with and learning from each other, because we're all in it together, right? So I want to ask a few questions, and if for those that have your cameras on, feel free to just raise your hand, like physically raise your hand, because we can see that. For those of you that maybe don't have your camera on, you're welcome to use the little emoji hand raise, or you can even put in the chat, you know, me, or I, or myself, or however you want to do that. I'm going to ask a few questions. We just kind of want to get a feel for how it looks. So we'd like to know a little bit about your caregiving situation. So please raise your hand if you're caring for a spouse or a partner. Anyone caring for a spouse and a partner? So we got a couple yeses. I don't know anything in the chat. I don't see anything coming in the chat. Okay, please raise your hand if you care for your parent or your in-law. We've got a hand raised there, got another hand raised, a few hand raises. Raise your hand if you're caring for a friend or a neighbor. Friend or a neighbor. Yep, got a couple of those. Very good. Now, how many of you, raise your hand again, how many of you have a caregiving relationship with someone who has memory loss or confusion? I can raise my hand to that one. Yeah, this is usually a pretty big one. And I'm going to ask where the person you care for lives, so that how many of you live with the person you care for? Actually live with the person you care for? Yeah, quite a few hands raised there. How many of them live in your home with you? Yep. And then how many of them actually live in a care facility? I don't see a lot on that. So very good. So that kind of gives us an idea of who is in our group here and who we're working with. Richard is now going to talk to us about the challenges of caregiving, acute versus chronic.
You're muted, Richard.
Caregiving for someone with a chronic illness requires a different mindset than caring for someone with an acute illness. With an acute illness, such as the flu, pneumonia, or appendicitis, we often set aside our own lives until the illness passes. This approach is not effective when our family member has a chronic illness, such as stroke, Alzheimer's disease, or Parkinson's disease. Of course, with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, often starts out as acute and progresses to chronic with the long haulers with COVID. Our chart here shows the difference between an acute illness versus a chronic illness. For example, under acute illness, we see that cures are available. There are treatments that are available to heal and restore a person to health. We know what to do. Whereas with chronic illness, there are no clear-cut cures. No treatment is going to take away the illness. It's chronic. However, in many cases, a lot can be done to manage a chronic disease. And at times, the illness may be under control. At other times, not. Acute illnesses tend to be short-term, so they're going to have a short-term impact. It can have a big impact, but it's usually time limited. Our life has changed for a few days, a few weeks, but problems do go away. It does resolve itself. Whereas chronic illness is long lasting. It's going to have an ongoing impact on our lives. It's not going to just go away. As a chronic illness progresses, our caregiving responsibilities often also increase. So it becomes our new normal. So again, with acute illness, you can return to normal at some point because the person's well again and everyone's life returns to the way it was. But of course, with chronic illness, it's a new normal. Normal changes, what that means. We're now living with a permanent condition. It's a big change from what was to what is now. And both caregivers and care receivers have to make adaptations in their ongoing lives. And with acute illness, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. With acute illness, we usually deal with certainty. So in regard to the future, we know what's going to happen. We know what the outcome is going to be. We know what the treatment progress is going to be. It's pretty predictable. With chronic illness, it's not. It's very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen necessarily in the future. Chronic illness can lack a predictable pattern or progression. Long-term effects may be hard to predict. Treatments that worked for a while may suddenly not be working anymore. Medications aren't working. We have to find a new medication. So things change. It's uncertain. So as this chart shows, an acute illness is not the same as a chronic illness. Therefore, using the same caregiving approaches, for example, setting our lives aside when our family member has a chronic illness, just is not appropriate. In fact, it can be damaging. Being a caregiver for the long haul of a chronic illness requires that we take care of ourselves. Usually, we cannot stop the impact of a chronic illness on a family member. However, we are responsible for our own self-care. It's critical that we don't become a second victim of our family member's illness. It's sad when a person says, "My mother was the ill person, but her illness destroyed my father." It's not selfish to think about your own health and well-being as caregivers. When you take care of yourself, everyone benefits. And now Terry will talk about an important step in self-care, managing stress.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out too that we have a few people that put in the chat that they are caring for their adult children at home. So that was even a subgroup that we didn't even mention. Another one is caring for parents at a distance, and this is a very normal type of caregiving as well. Another is caring for their ex in his home. So I think when we start looking at some of these, all the different ways that you can caregive, it's very apparent that you need to manage the stress that you're going to go through while you're doing that. And stress is the reaction that we experience when the demands placed on us are too much to cope with. While some stress can be positive, too much stress can affect us in negative ways, both physically and emotionally. One of the most important things that we can do, both for ourselves and for our friend or our family member, is to take care of ourselves. So it's really important that you thrive, not just survive, right? It's an important tool for thriving is being able to recognize and manage that stress. So we're going to look at we're going to look at the next chart. Oh, I need to get this out of my way. And let's talk about the steps to managing stress. So number one is recognizing warning signs early, and early is the key word there. It's easier and more helpful to make changes early to reduce your stress. And if you end up waiting until you're overwhelmed, it takes longer to recover from the effects of that stress. So you want to recognize it early. And then number two, you want to identify the sources of stress. So you have to ask yourself, what is causing stress for me? What causes the most stress for each of us could be very different, right? So it's a very personal point of what's actually causing stress for you. And then you want to identify what you can and cannot change. And that involves asking the following questions. What do I actually have some control over? What can I change? And even a small change can make a very big difference. However, if we try to change things over which we have no control, and I know I do that, we only actually increase our stress. And then on top of that, we increase our frustration. So really important to identify what you can and cannot change. And then step number 4 is to take action. And that's where you need to do something to reduce the stress. And it's going to give you a sense of control. So the message about stress is don't ignore it. You have to do something, you have to address it. So in taking these 4 steps to reduce stress, it really is self-critical. It is critical to self-care. And both the caregiver and the care receiver are going to benefit, right? Because if you're better cared for, your care receiver is going to be better cared for. And we're more likely to be patient if we are not stressed out and frustrated. We're more likely to be more loving when we're taking better care of ourselves. So let's go ahead and identify our signs and sources, that part number 2 of stress, and then we're going to discuss tools for managing it. And it's really important to recognize and manage that stress. And if we don't, it's really hard to do anything else in a calm and loving manner. So Richard's going to talk about this, identifying signs and sources of stress.
So each one of us has warning signs that tell us we're experiencing stress. If we identify and respond to our very early warning signs, then we can prevent the destructive impact of stress. Too often, however, we don't recognize the early warning signs or we ignore them. We either don't recognize them or we just don't pay attention to them. As you look at what is stressful in giving and receiving care, it can be quite different for each of us. So in this chart on the stress, my warning signs and my sources, think about these statements. My warning signs of stress are, and my sources of stress are. And we'll ask you to shout out some of what you have as warning signs and what are some of your sources. So Terry and I will start just to show you what we're talking about. So for example, my warning sign of stress is I start barking at people. I bark. And my sources of barking at people, my sort of stress, is I have a huge load of things to do. I have a overloaded calendar, too much to do, and then I bark. What about you, Terry? What's your warning signs of stress?
My warning sign of stress is I call it spinning out of control. I start spinning. So I'll just go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and never get anything done. And my source of that is when I have too much on my plate and not enough time to do it.
Yes.
We have several in the chat here. Richard, do you want me to read them to you? Or do you
Oh
want
yeah, please.
You want me to read them or you want to?
Yes, please read them. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have one, recognize this, it sounds like the warning sign is when they want to move out of the house. They want to move out. And they did not, Lauren, I don't know if you want to list what your source of that, what creates that. Becky said same here, so you could asterisk that. And then another one is they get headaches.
Get headaches.
When there's the smallest of stressors, so small stressors.
So it's not even a big thing, but still it's
Yeah.
causing these headaches, yeah.
And it looks like it, because I like things a certain way.
They want to move out of the house because they like things a certain way.
Yeah, different people, but yeah.
Okay.
Here's another one, getting very impatient when stressed. So another warning sign.
Getting impatient.
Another one, I get very cranky.
I get cranky.
Yeah, that's Richard's barking right there.
She capitalized it.
I've experienced Richard's barking. Cranky and wanting to be alone.
Wanting to be alone. Yeah.
Becoming combative.
Combative. Let's be sure and get some more sources in there too.
We got getting hyper anxious is another warning sign.
Getting hyper anxious.
And here's a source, and it's not going to necessarily go with the warning sign, just so we know that. We're just doing it as a list. So a source of stress is feeling unprepared.
Feeling unprepared. Oh yeah, yeah.
Lauren said here, I want everything done at once.
I want everything done at once.
Making unrealistic goals.
Making unrealistic goals.
We have, and I think warning sign is sleeplessness.
Sleeplessness.
Making lots of mistakes.
Making lots of mistakes.
And someone here has a low threshold for stress because of trauma.
Low threshold for stress because of trauma. You know, I was thinking sleeplessness could be also a source because when you don't get enough rest, then you can get stressed out over things that normally don't stress you. Well, that sounds like a pretty good list of different things. Are there any questions or does anyone need any explanation on any of these responses that we got? They're pretty clear and we've all experienced these things, haven't we? Now, remember, the earlier we identify warning signs, the better. Some of these signs, barking at people, spinning out of control, headaches, getting impatient, being cranky, they may not actually be our earliest warning sign. If the people we live with may be able to identify things a little earlier than we do, but they may be the signs that finally catch our attention. Oh, now I realize I'm stressed out. It's important that we pay attention to our earliest warning signs and respond to them. Now, the results of neglecting our stress. So let's say we either don't recognize these signs or we decide to ignore them. then these warning signs can progress. So our warning signs in general can be physical, emotional, or mental. And if we neglect our warning signs, problems will develop in all of these areas. The results of neglecting stress include increased health problems. So stress affects our immune system, and it can increase our vulnerability to illness, and it can worsen existing medical problems. And we even mentioned like a specific medical problem, such as headaches, that stress can cause. And then there can be disrupted relationships as a result of ignoring stress. Stress can cause a breakdown in the communication that we have with others. And stress-related emotions, such as irritability and anger, can obviously have an obviously adverse effect on our relationships. Two people barking at each other, not very pleasant. And then burnout. This is the total physical and emotional exhaustion, a feeling of being totally overwhelmed and not being able to cope. And then, of course, at that point, you stop taking care of yourself and you can't take care of anyone else either. Depression. Depression can range from just feeling down to feeling hopeless. That feeling of I can't, nothing's going to work. In the 5th class of our full 6-week Powerful Tools for Caregivers course, we talk about emotions, including depression. And we emphasize that emotions are normal. There's nothing to be afraid of them, but it's important to manage them, to recognize what's behind, what's causing this emotion. And then decrease quality of care. Stress can decrease our ability to give good care to the person that we're caring for. Or to give care in a non-loving way. We're still caring for them, but we're not showing that loving self that we would like to show. So if you ignore stress, it festers and gets worse. And stress is normal. It's a fact of caregiving. We can't eliminate it and we can't stop it from occurring, but we can manage stress. And it's important to manage our stress so it doesn't control us. We have completed the first 2 steps in managing stress, which is we are identifying warning signs of stress, and then we're identifying sources of stress. So we want to take the 3rd step, which is an important step, which is managing stress, is by clearly identifying what you can change and what you cannot change. We only increase our stress and frustration if we try to change things over which we have no control. Have you ever said, if only they would change? Well, it's important to remember that we can only change ourselves. We cannot change another person. And sometimes this means we just need to let go of it. We'll now talk about Terry will talk about tools for reducing stress. We'll consider what we can do so we can better tolerate the unchangeable stresses in our lives.
So how do we take action? This is the 4th step in dealing with stress. We don't gain anything if we are only identifying the warning signs and sources, right? You have to actively do something to reduce the stress. And unfortunately, it's really easy to get tangled up in barriers to doing something to reduce your stress. So let's look at the barriers and what those look like when it's barriers to taking action. So the first barrier is maybe you just can't even think of what to do. So you're stressed out and you just can't figure out what it is that is going to help you to reduce stress. So what we're going to do is in just a few minutes, we're going to actually do a brainstorm on things that we can do to reduce stress. So we'll put a little list up here. And then another barrier can be choosing a difficult activity. And this happens a lot. This is where you're selecting a stress reducing activity that is maybe too involved, or it's too awkward, or it's too time consuming, or you don't really want to do it, but you've done it in the past. So just be careful that you're not creating a stress reducing activity that actually is going to create more stress by just getting it done. And then another barrier is where you're postponing a stress reduction. So that would be, let's say that you're planning a trip to the beach, or you're planning you're planning a family gathering, but maybe that beach trip isn't for another 3 months. And yeah, it'll reduce stress, but you need a stress reducer right now. So make sure you're not postponing that stress reduction 3 months out or even a week out. Maybe you're planning to get together with family this weekend, but you need a stress reducer right now. So don't plan that stress reducer too far out. If you're seeing those signs and you need to do something and take that action, what are you going to do right now? Okay. So just really want to recognize what the barriers are and go from there. Now, what are stress reducers? That's a good question, right? They are activities that are going to help you relax. They're going to be soothing and pleasurable. They're going to make you feel good. And you can build it into your life on a regular basis. It could be deep breathing, it could be going into the bathroom and taking 4 or 5 nice deep breaths. It could be that simple, or it could be getting a pedicure or manicure. It doesn't have to be elaborate. That's really is the point that I'm trying to make. Just a few minutes a day doing something relaxing and enjoyable can really help us deal better with stress. So what I want to ask you, and we're going to do a quick little brainstorm here, and you can throw it in the chat if you would like, is what have you done successfully to reduce stress? And it could be something that you do now or something you've done in the past. And we've only got a few minutes, so we'll take the first 5 or 6 answers.
I see massage, facial, beauty treatment, walk with a friend, pray, call my mom, talk with a friend, get out in nature, hang out with my owls.
Yeah, very good.
Hang out with cats.
I like this list. So any clarification, anyone not understand anything on the list here? Maybe you'll see something new for yourself.
Take warm baths. Like that one. Pet the pony. Pet
Pet
pig.
pig. Pet the pig. Oh, I love
Pet pig. Garden. Breathe deeply. Mm-hmm.
So this is a very good list, and we actually have a handout here that we're going to give you. It's the Tools for Relieving Stress handout. We're going to go ahead and upload that into the chat. So you're welcome to click on that and download it, upload it into your computer, up to your phone. It's really helpful. Here's another tip. It's really helpful to match your stress reducing activity to your way of responding to stress. So for example, if your response to stress is mostly physical, like if you have high blood pressure, if you have digestive problems, headaches, pacing, that kind of thing, you might want to try a physical relaxing activity like walking, swimming, physical exercise, a massage, a bubble bath, something that's physical, right? If you experience stress mostly in mental ways, so you worry a lot or you have difficulty concentrating, try a mentally relaxing activity like a meditation, listening to a relaxing tape, listening to music, reading for pleasure, something more mental. And if your style of responding to stress is both physical and mental, try something that actually activates both of those. So something like maybe doing yoga or Tai Chi or something along that line. There's just a lot of different ways to reduce stress. So check out the handout that we just put up. Feel free to download that. It's a great list. And there's just a lot of ideas, some of which you may have already forgotten. So, yeah.
There's just so many different ways that are personal to each person to reduce stress. It's important just to find what works for you and what you find pleasurable. These little things can make a big difference. So now we're going to do what we call an action plan. This is a stress buster. An action plan is an agreement or a contract with yourself to do something that you want to do and that will help you reach a goal. Today we'll make an action plan for something that will help us to reduce stress. Now, a good action plan has several parts, and it includes first of all, something that you want to do. This is really important. It needs to be something you want to do, not something that you think you should do, or something that someone's been nagging you to do. That's something you really want to do. You'd enjoy doing it. Select something that will help you feel better and take better care of yourself. An action plan is to be a want to do, not a should do. Then it needs to be reachable. So an action plan is something that you can easily complete during the next week. It's important that you're able to complete it in a short amount of time, because it's important that you be successful. So when you're realistic and you're able to get done what you said you would do, then you feel like, I can do this. And it's really empowering. And then it needs to be behavior specific. So, I'd like to lose my COVID-19, the 19 pounds that everybody got during COVID. Well, that's nice. How am I going to do that? Wishing does not make it so. I've got to actually take specific steps to get it done. I need maybe to cut out snacking, or I need to take a walk, or I need to start practicing some different exercise routines. So those are some specific actions that'll lead to that goal of getting rid of my COVID-19. So it needs to be specific. Then it's going to answer these questions. First of all, what is it? What are you going to do? For example, I will read a book, or I will take a walk. How much of it are you going to do? I'm going to read 1 chapter, or I'm going to walk for 2 blocks. How often? When are you going to do this? I will read first thing in the morning before I get out of bed with my coffee, or I will walk in the mid-afternoon when the person I'm caring for is sleeping. And how often are you going to do it? So how often are you going to do this activity in the coming week? I'll do it 3 times on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, sometimes people are so relieved that they can give her permission to do something that they'd actually like to do, that they say, I'm going to do it every day, because they really want to do it, and it's something that they've been wanting to do. But, if you haven't done it at all up to this point, then it's unlikely that you're going to do it every single day in the coming week, especially with all the other stuff you've got to get done. Caregiving, job, all the other stuff on your plate. So commit to doing less. And then if you do more, wow, that's great. But if you say you're going to do more and you don't get it done, then you feel like, oh, I didn't even accomplish it. So set yourself up for success. Even if you know, oh, I know I can do it 7 days. Don't say that. Say, I'll do it 3 days. I'm going to do it 3 days. And then, yeah, you'll blow it out of the water if you do 7. So go, promise less, give more. Then your confidence level. This is how confident you are that you're going to be able to accomplish your entire action plan during the next week. And you rate your confidence level on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 means not at all confident that you'll be able to accomplish your action plan during the coming week, whereas 10 means you're so confident that you'll complete your action plan in the next week. You've already done it. So try to have a confidence level higher than lower. So try to get 7 or higher. If you're confident, if you ice skip confidence level and you say, well, it's 6 or it's 5, probably not going to happen. So, well, how can you make it more confident? Well, you could do something else entirely that you really will do, or you could take a smaller step in the thing that you want to accomplish. So let's say I really want to clear out my closet. I love to have a clean closet, and it's gotten a big mess. And I'm going to completely clean it out this Saturday. And my confidence level is a 5. That's probably not going to happen. Well, how about I'm going to buy boxes so that I have the tools there ready, so that when I do clean out the closet, I'll have what I need. Oh, I can do that. Now my confidence level is an 8 or a 9. So I just took a smaller step. Remember, action plans will help you to thrive on caregiving. Since our class is only an hour long today, we can't have everyone share their action plan like we normally would in a real class. And it's so much fun to hear about all the different action plans. We love to do that. But Terry and I will give an action plan for ourselves to give you an example of what it's like. But you be thinking about this because we'd love you to do one at home. And I think that you all have a handout to follow so you can create your own action plan at home. And we really encourage you to do that. So let Terry and I will model how to do it. And then you do this at home because it's really going to be a game changer. So are you ready with your plan or shall I start?
I am ready. Yes.
Okay.
You want me to start? So this week, I have a very busy work schedule. So I am going to take 5 minutes in the morning to sit out on my patio when the weather is still not horribly hot and have my coffee, watch the birds. And I'm going to do that on Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning while I get caught up with all of my workload. I'm going to do it for 5 minutes on those mornings, and my confidence level is an 8.
I will start a yoga program because I get very tense in my body and I also have strong emotions. So I feel that yoga will help me to deal with both aspects. We have a yoga class here at my work in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It starts at 6:45. So I will need to get here at 6:45 to do the program. And I will start on Wednesday. And my confidence level is an 8.
Very cool. Looks like Lauren has got a nice action plan going. I'm not going to read all through that, Lauren, but oh my goodness, I say good luck to you on your personal space. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So in closing, based on today's presentation, what we're hoping that you remember are the 4 items: that it's critical to take care of yourself, that it's important to identify your warning signs and your source of stress, it's important to take action to relieve your stress, and that these action plans are a tool to help you reduce stress. And when you have time, we have another handout. It's called Managing Stress Exercise. And take a minute afterwards and you can answer these questions on the handout as a way to begin managing that stress. We do want to thank everyone for coming today. And if you're interested in being placed in a class, we have some classes that are ongoing. They're 6 weeks. And we can probably get you into a 6-week class. That would be great. And we're going to end this class with a relaxation tool called guided imagery. And then afterwards, we'll be able to answer questions that you have. So Richard, did you want to do the guided imagery today?
Yeah, and I think that actually our next Powerful Tools for Caregivers class is starting on Wednesday the 26th. Is that correct? At 5. Oh,
The 21st. This
the
Wednesday.
21st, excuse me.
It's coming
At 5
Wednesday.
p.m.
Yeah.
And it's an in-person class, or you
No.
can join by Zoom.
It's
No.
not an in-person class.
Oh, it's not in person?
That
Oh,
one's Zoom. The August one is a hybrid. So that one's in person or on Zoom. Yes, no worries.
I'm looking forward to seeing people in person again. I'm but I like Zoom too. So, and we can reach more people on Zoom. So that's great. So now for our guided imagery relaxation. What we think and feel has a powerful effect on our minds. One of the things we can do is to learn to use our mind to relax our body. This can help reduce stress. And one way to do this is through guided imagery. Guided imagery is like a guided daydream, where we picture ourselves in a peaceful, relaxing place. It can help us experience deep relaxation. We will now do a guided imagery called A Walk to the Beach. If you feel uncomfortable with anything on the walk, just picture yourself in a place that you find relaxing. If possible, you can dim your lights. It's time to relax now. For just a short time, let go of all outside concerns. In this guided imagery exercise, prepare yourself for a summertime stroll to the beach. Make yourself as comfortable as possible in your chair. Uncross your legs and ankles. Relax your arms at your side. Close your eyes as a way of closing out any unnecessary distractions. Now imagine yourself walking barefoot down a sandy path. In the distance, you can hear the waves rumbling onto the beach. The soft sand feels slightly cool between your toes. The plants on each side of the path tickle your legs as you take this leisurely walk. As you get closer, the sound of the waves gets louder. You can see the sun slowly beginning to set above. It is making the sky and the few clouds turn to pink and orange colors. As you continue down the path, you can see the water now. Its brilliant blue color is sparkling in the sunset. The calming ripples closest to the shore invite you to take a closer look. As you walk towards the water, leaving footprints behind, you start to feel the soft sand become more solid under your feet. It feels a little wet from the water near the shore. The edge of the water gleams with white foam. You notice a few seashells in the sand. You bend over to pick up one and see its perfect shape and pearly insides. With the warm water tickling between your toes, you look up and across the water as far as you can see. Realizing now how small we are in the vastness of the universe. Just a few feet from the water's edge sits an empty chair. As you walk toward the chair, you can see small crabs sticking their heads out of tiny holes in the sand and running away as you draw near. After you take a seat in the chair, you're impressed by the harmony of your surroundings. The warmth of the summer air, the sweet smell of the water, your toes in the sand, your ears listening to the sound of the waves, and your eyes watching the sunset over the water. A feeling of peace cascades over you. You take a deep breath to take in more of this relaxing time. You sit here and rest a while. Relax in the feeling that nothing else in the world matters at this moment. This is a time of pure enjoyment, just for you. Listen a while and relax some more. When you're ready, you begin to stand up, feeling the soft sand between your toes again. Thankful that you've had this time to yourself. Remember, you can return to this place in your mind's eye whenever you want. You begin to walk back along the sandy path that brought you to this peaceful place. You're grateful for this time of refreshment. Take a deep, cleansing breath. And then slowly exhale. When you're ready, slowly begin to open your eyes. Does anyone feel more relaxed? I hope. Do any of you have seem like you feel like warmer in your hands or extremities? Sometimes that can be an impact of this type of relaxation. Guided imagery is just one way to increase the relaxation response. You may feel not only more relaxed, but again, your hands and feet may feel warmer. The relaxation response also increases our circulation. And you may wish to practice this guided imagery at home. This guided imagery and a progressive muscle relaxation exercise are available as free downloads from the Powerful Tool Caregivers headquarters website at powerfultoolsforcaregivers.org.
Lauren, I'm often much thinner in my guided imagery as well. So that concludes our presentation here. I'm sure if any of you have questions, I think we're going to hand it back over. Mary, you're muted. Mary, you're muted.
I said we have a little time left. If we have people that have a question, we could probably take 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have a question they'd like to unmute and ask? I'm just checking the chat to see. I don't see any questions in the chat, but because we are low on time, Terry, would you or Richard like to say any closing comments before we make a few announcements?
I would just like to say experiencing this particular 6-week course is very powerful. We've been delivering this course for quite a while, and I can tell you it will give you, it's called Powerful Tools for Caregivers. It will give you some powerful tools for the situations that you are currently in as a caregiver. We have a class starting, a virtual class starting on Wednesday, and it'd be every Wednesday for 6 weeks. It's a 90-minute class. And then we have other classes on the schedule as well if Wednesday doesn't work for you. Tori would have the information for that. So I don't know, Tori, you're muted as well.
I think, Tori, we had your phone number up a little bit ago. Yes, there it is.
Or you can, or email Tori as well. That's probably a good way as well.
Okay, great. Great information. I saw a chat note about Cheryl. If Cheryl, did you have a question?
I didn't unmute myself. I was gonna just ask about their experience in running this class. What finally gets a caregiver to come to the class? Because we know that people delay seeking any help. They're so either busy or overwhelmed or whatever, and or they think they've got it handled, or they don't think there's really an answer that they're going to receive. But what finally gets them over that barrier to join a class? Do you have any sense of that?
That's a really good question. And, you know, we get the class when they're actually have made that decision and they're here.
Yeah, and I think that I think it's when they finally hit such an overwhelm and then they hear about it at the right time. You hit all of the points of, you know, of people not thinking there's any solutions or there's any different way of doing things other than the way they're doing it, but there really are, is the bottom line. Things can change and shift. Yeah, very good question, Cheryl. I don't know that we answered your question, but I think it just when they get to a point of overwhelm and then they hear about it and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, so again, we're, you know, it's a very, very well spent time for a caregiver to invest in themselves, to take the course. And it's free. It's free. It's not costing you anything, you know, so.
Do you do any follow-up in your program to see how they're doing after the 6-week course? Do you follow up with them 3 months later or down the road just to see how they're doing?
We do not, but we invite them to take the course again and again and again.
Okay.
So they're always welcome. It's not like a one time and you're done. We will have caregivers that will come and take the course 2 and 3 and 4 times until they kind of get into the pattern of that self-care. So.
And we also encourage them to reach out to the others as they feel comfortable to continue to help each other, because the support of the program is what really makes it so powerful. Not what Terry already said, but what we say to each other within the class. And people want to keep that relationship going often. It's totally up to them. No one's required to like exchange phone numbers or anything like that, but people will often want to do that.
Well, thank you again, Richard and Terry, for a great session today. We appreciate you joining us, and we thank you for being here, but we also want to thank once again our sponsor, AARP.
Yay.
And I would also like to thank Marsha O'Malley with Mindful Media Services and Becky Cantos for their technical assistance at our meeting today. We have a great committee that works on planning upcoming conversations with caregivers, including our chair, Deanna Hearn, Lisa Davis from Renown Health, Cheryl Donnell with the Nevada Lifespan Respite Center Coalition, and she also works with Nevada Aging and Disability Services Division. And last but certainly not least, Riley Franco with AARP. So if anyone joining us today has ideas for topics, please send us a note or follow up on our website to let us know, because we're always looking for topics of interest for caregivers. We would like to tell you what we're going to have as our next session, which will be our August topic of conversations with caregivers. Our topic will be challenges of living with Parkinson's disease. We know that over 1 million people in the United States have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which we call PD sometimes. It's the second most common neurodegenerative disease globally.
Wow.
Its chronic nature disturbs motor and non-motor systems, creating a wide range of complex physical and social implications that vary by the person and the disease progression. Recognizing many unmet needs, the Continuum continues to develop comprehensive programs for people with PD, their caregivers, family, and friends, as well as educating our community. As they say, it takes a village. So Diane Ross, who is the CEO of the Continuum and the Continuum team, will be sharing programs specific to helping those affected by PD, and a special guest appearance by the PD rappers. So I'm anxious to hear who are the PD rappers and what do they have. So I just want to remind everybody that all of our events take place on the third Monday of the month at 1 p.m. So mark your calendars, and we hope you'll join us at future conversations with caregivers. We do record all of our events and make the recording available to the public on our website shortly after the presentation. So if you miss a month, you can always catch up with us on our website. Everyone here today will also receive a follow-up email with information to access the recording and details about our next Conversations with Caregiver event and how to sign up for that. We would like to thank you for your attendance today, and we look forward to seeing you in August. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next month. Thank you, Terry and Richard. It was terrific. And thank you to our terrific team that puts this together. Have a great July and